Welcome back to the newest edition of the iCoach podcast. This is your host, Marvin Nash. I just want to start today by just saying how thankful I am for the situation that I'm in right now. I coach at a great place, but we welcomed students back into the classroom on April 12th. And having a full class is something that's kind of unbelievable for me, especially after what we've been through this past year. The big takeaway that I got from everything is that kids need teachers, kids need coaches, but coaches and teachers need kids as well. The job is difficult in itself because there's so much at stake. We are taking a parent's number one asset, their children, their number one prized possession, and we're spending 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day with other people's children to try to help make them better people. And what I found is that it's very difficult to do that through a Zoom, do it virtually. We need interaction, just socially. That's just how we are as people. But at the same time, if your heart is in education and your soul is dedicated to helping other people, then you have to have that interaction. It makes this job so much better. So this is more of just a thank you to our legislators, our admin team, our people who have put together the ability for us to be able to continue doing this great profession. And I don't take it lightly. This last year made me really, really, really reflect on what we do and why we do it. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity to make a difference. This is the iCoach podcast. Have a great show set up for you today with Marco Regalado, good friend of mine. We bonded over the past year or so, and he's just done some amazing things, going from a Texas high school football coach to a Power 5 recruiting assistant in a little less than 12 months. So it's a great listen. Thank you guys for everything you do, and remember why we do what we do. Welcome back to iCoach the podcast. This is your host, Marvin Nash. I'm joined with a great coach and a great friend, Marco Regalado. Marco, welcome.
Hey, glad to be back. How's it going?
Hey, not bad, man. Not bad. We're fresh off of me going through my normal sports browsing and seeing you at a press conference playing the guitar and singing, man, just showing the multi-talents. Man, just talk to us a little bit about how the change has been since you've made the move to Washington State.
It's been, quite a change kind of being on the other side of the spectrum. You go from trying to push your athletes out, trying to get them recruited to now you're trying to bring athletes in. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's pretty similar. The most difficult part has been kind of training your eye to, one, find prospects that fit exactly what we do offensive and defensively, as well as trying to find the right talent that fits, in the Power 5 conferences and the Pac-12 and try to be competitive, with other teams in our conference.
Absolutely. I know a big question, I'm down here in Texas. How often do our I want to say coastal states reach out to the schools in the middle, like the Texases, the Oklahomas, the Arkansas? Is that a big recruiting area for you guys?
I mean, we get recruits from all over. We get emails, we get calls from, all over the nation. Texas, just like it is for every other Power 5 conference and most Group of 5 conferences, Texas is a hotbed, as is California, as is Georgia and Florida. Those are some states that produce a lot of talent. But you do, have to scour the entire United States and look at every state and find some diamonds in the rough, find some people that may be under recruited, or, find some people that are just really a good fit for us here, at our university. So you'd think it's pretty regional, but it's pretty widespread from coast to coast, the amount of athletes you get to look at and evaluate and stuff.
That's awesome. Now, this question might be a little more difficult for you. Coming from recruiting coordinator for a high school to a recruiting assistant at the college level, what was the biggest eye-opening thing that you wish you would have known as a high school recruiting coordinator?
Yeah, that is a tough one. I guess the one thing you do see And now, like I said, just being on the other side of it, you kind of get upset when you don't get responses right away. And you kind of get turned off on certain things. The one thing that I see from this side of things, and now the best advice I can give for a high school recruiting coordinator is just to be persistent. The amount of people you get, reaching out through email, through direct messages and stuff like that, it's really easy for, you send a message here at 9, but then, other people are sending that message at the same time. Your message kind of goes towards the bottom. If you're persistent, I'm not saying like every 5 minutes, but, every couple of days, it kind of refreshes. You send a new message, you get back up to the top, and it's kind of a little bit easier to keep track of that, or, be seen and stuff. I can tell you now from this perspective, I don't think it's done maliciously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess another thing I wondered about is the prospect sheets. I know a lot of us recruiting coordinators, we put together these elaborate prospect sheets and we send them out. How often do those emails just get ignored, or is that something that you look at every single sheet that you get?
We look at them. As a recruiting staff, when our assistant coaches get them, they forward them to us and we sift through them. And for the most part, they're all getting looked at. Especially, we get a prospect sheet. We might try to make contact with the high school coach just to get, certain verified measurables or transcripts or anything like that. But for the most part, prospect sheets are big time because they have all the information that's really important, especially when you're inputting them into the database. It's got addresses, it's got GPAs, it's got height, weight, test scores, and stuff like that. So to me, prospect sheets make my life a lot easier.
Awesome. Now, I just saw recently that a new rules passed that there is no requirements for the SAT or ACT, any test scores to go out for players. That the GPA requirements still remain the same. How does that differentiate anything for you guys as a recruiting staff?
Well, actually, I think it just got approved that Washington State, we don't require SAT or ACT. So for us, it's just getting used to the way things are going to be now. Mm-hmm. I know with COVID, that's kind of changed at certain schools and stuff like that, but that seems to be like what it's going to be like the norm here. Just making sure that your GPA meets the requirements, obviously for the university, but also for the NCAA.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it gives a lot more opportunity for kids who might not be great test takers, but are still very bright and can offer a lot of things on the field as well. That's great. Now, I followed your head coach for a while on Twitter, and he's a funny guy. He really is. He seems to be like an interesting guy to work for. What's it like working for Coach Rollo?
That's great. He's just genuine. A good person who cares about people, cares about his players, knows all his players by name, knows all his coaches, and makes it a point to know who his coaches' spouses are, the names of their kids, when are their birthdays. Like I said, it's just really rare to see somebody who cares that much, who already has a lot of burdens being a head coach. But he makes things fun, and that's the one thing we try to tell recruits and stuff is just the environment that's being built here at Washington State under, Coach Rolovich it's pretty unique. It's pretty amazing. And it's definitely a lot of fun. We get work done, we play hard, but we also play hard,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Coach Regalado, another question I have for you. I know we talk about how your fame took off with TikTok, and that was how some people were introduced to you. Tell us a little bit more about the coach side of Coach Regalado, where you started and how you ended up where you are now.
So, coaching wasn't something that I set out to do straight out of high school. I'd always had an interest in it. And that's conversations I had with my high school coach. But, it's something that my parents kind of pushed me to do, and nothing like I'm not mad at my parents about that or anything like that, but I graduated valedictorian in my class. So they wanted me to pursue something, have a doctor next to my name of some sort. So I went to Texas State and studied physical therapy. The prereq classes were exercise science and stuff like that. I enjoyed them, but when it started getting into the core classes, and when I started getting into my senior year, I did a 300-hour internship. I just came home one day and said, "Mom, I don't want to do this. It's not fun for me. It's not really what I want to do. So I thought, what's the next best thing? Really wanted to be involved with athletics. So I thought, let's try athletic training. So I got into the grad school at Texas A&M Kingsville, got into the athletic training program, was a graduate assistant through the athletic training program. And I did that also for about a year. And still, like, I have a huge respect for athletic trainers. They work their tails off, and it's a very respectable profession. It just, again, it wasn't for me. And it just so happened I was lucky at the time where there was some movement on the coaching staff. And even though I was an athletic trainer, I'd still find ways to get into the meeting rooms and made, great relationships with the defensive coordinator, who's Dave Brown, who happens to be a mentor of mine. Also would spend time with the linebackers coach, Coach May. And when there was an opening for GA, they asked if I wanted to slide over to the football side. Shoot, I didn't even have to think twice about that. I knew kind of at that point, I was like, this is what I want to do. So did that for a year, graduated, and kind of had the choice to stick around in college for a bit or take a high school job, a local high school. And at the time, I thought about it a lot, and my heart was telling me to go coach high school. And I think that was a great choice of mine. You learn to build relationships with kids. You learn a lot of organization and management when you run a classroom. So I coached high school ball for 5 years, 3 or 4 of those in the Coastal Bend. I spent 1 in the Rio Grande Valley, and then ended up at Eaton High School there in Fort Worth. And, which was a great experience. I'd never been a part of anything like that. The success we kind of had, winningest record in school history, going 3 rounds in the playoffs, was definitely something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. And, that kind of springboarded into, me finding this job and applying and building relationships through being a high school recruiting coordinator that definitely benefited me. Got an interview. I felt I did well. And that's when it was maybe a week after the interview, I got a DM from Rolo on Twitter, like at 10 o'clock at night, that said, see you in a week. So that's how all that went down.
That is a whirlwind of a story there. I wasn't expecting the last part, the see you in a week, time to move halfway across the country. That's fantastic. Another thing I didn't know you were the valedictorian of your class. So not only are you super talented, you're pretty brilliant too. So people need to know that. So tell me this, Coach. How did you balance all of these different talents? Because I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm gonna lean to one way or the other, and a lot of kids these days think they have to specialize in what they're doing, that they can't play football and be involved in choir, or they can't play basketball and be involved in theater. How did you balance all of the talents that you had?
I credit that to my parents, kind of allowing me to do a lot of those things. And, growing up in a small town where you kind of have to be able to do everything. That's just kind of how it is when you have to be able to play a lot of sports and be involved in a lot of activities. But it's just the kind of thing I've coined myself with is, being a Renaissance man. And that's something I encourage a lot of others to do, is just kind of broaden yourself, make yourself, get involved in different things, learn different talents, learn different skills. Don't feel like you have to follow this cookie cutter of what a coach should be. Feel free to be yourself and explore things. That's kind of my approach. And, like you're talking about balancing, it's just, that's kind of where you learn organization. You set time for certain things. I don't play guitar every day. And to me, I don't know if I'd want to. To me, guitar is almost like my stress reliever, my getaway, the thing I use to clear my mind. Would I ever want to pursue a career in music? Not really. It is one of my passions. It is a really good hobby of mine, but that's not what that is. I think I'd get sick and tired of music if I did it every day. Sports and athletics is something I feel like could be around every day. And even then, even when I was coaching like high school football, I do football all day, Monday through Saturday. and then I'd get to hang out with my dad, and he'd want to watch, Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. And I'd make it through the second quarter and fall asleep. And he'd be like, what are you doing? And this is what you love. It's football. I said, I know, but Sunday's almost my day to just just not think about football and just relax. And then, towards the end of the day, get everything ready to go and get started again on Monday. But you got to find time for things, and you got to find time also for yourself. I think is the main important thing when it comes to that.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Understanding what you love, but finding time to decompress and reconnect with yourself. What's a bit of advice? Again, we talked about this whirlwind that you've been through. What's a bit of advice you give to a high school coach that aspires to make it to the college level one day?
Just build relationships is the main one. That's the biggest thing that's kind of got me to where I am today is, even when doing the high school recruiting, it wasn't always just, spitting out like, here, check this recruit out. Some days I wouldn't even talk to a college coach about recruiting. I just ask how their day's going, how's everything going, how's their family, and build those relationships, because that's kind of what's going to make a coach remember you when things open up, when jobs open up. And the second thing of advice is you just got to be ready for that leap of faith. It may not be the salary you want. It may not be the position you want. It may not be in the general region where you want to be. But if college football is where you want to be, it's going to take some sacrifices, especially in the beginning. You're going to have to put in work and work your way up. It's almost like, you go from being at a certain level, doing so much at the high school level, and you get into college, and it's almost like you hit the reset button, and now you're starting off from scratch again. But you see the light at the end of the tunnel, you see the progress, and it's almost like, to me, it's refreshing. Like I feel like I learn something new every day, so it's worth it to me.
Absolutely. I think one of the resounding themes of this whole podcast is just the idea that relationships matter. And you've proven that you've built great relationships on any level, wherever you are. What would you attribute that talent to? How are you able to connect with so many people on such an authentic level?
Yeah, I credit that a lot to my dad. My dad is a great people person. He's always been the one to encourage me growing up. When you walk into a room, you go and you shake everybody's hands, you make eye contact, and you introduce yourself. That's just good etiquette. And also credit to my mom making me do theater, because I don't get nervous. I don't get nervous in certain situations where normal people would get nervous, because I've had, stage experience, public speaking experience and stuff like that. So me introducing myself to somebody new isn't something that really is nerve wracking. So I think my parents, the way they brought me up is just kind of, be a people person, and definitely, my choice of, instead of staying home or close for college, going to Texas State on my own, where I didn't really have anybody, getting in the dorm. If you ever have a chance, I'm just kind of speaking to younger guys, live in the dorm. You're going to meet some of your life friends in the dorm. Met my friends in the dorm. I lived with them for the next 4 years in apartments. And like I said, those are just some of the things I've attributed to kind of building relationships. And it's just also genuinely caring. I think people, kids, everybody can kind of see through it when you're just trying to get something out of them. When you show that you genuinely care and genuinely want to learn about somebody or get to know them, I think that goes a long way too.
Absolutely. Coach Regalado, this is the last question I'm going to ask, but it might be the most important one. When building those relationships, when you're putting yourself out there, and you've already shown you don't get nervous, you're already one of the most intelligent people walking the face of the earth with and being the valedictorian. How do you separate yourself from every other person that's vying for that one job?
You got to make yourself stand out somehow. And I guess, it could either be experience. It could be the way you interview. It could be marketing yourself somehow on social media. In my case, making my parody videos, you making this podcast, there has to be something about you that sticks out from everybody else, because everybody else is trying to be a coach. Everybody else is learning the same X's and O's that you are. In high school, everybody's teaching courses and stuff like that. You have to find your niche or something that can kind of separate you. And like I said, so in some cases it could be, being a big name or being related to a big name coach. It could be your experiences that you've had. It could be attaching yourself to a successful program. Or it could just be building a relationship. And I think that's honestly, out of everything, you move everything, you scratch everything. I think if you just build relationships, that's the easiest way to set yourself apart from the rest of the pack.
Awesome. Well, Coach Regalado, I thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know the schedule is quite different than it was being a high school coach. And just you taking this moment is huge for me because I've enjoyed watching your growth, man. I know we met about a year ago, and it's just kind of taking off from there. The friendships there, you're somebody I can bounce ideas off of, and I respect you so much, man. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it, and I enjoy being here.
Thank you.